It's a strange feeling, catching your wife cheating on you. It's not something that happens overnight. It's a slow burn, an accumulation of little signs that finally catch up to you. I'm not proud of how I handled it, but in the end, I did what I thought was best. This is my story. I'm a 38-year-old man who had been married to his wife for nearly 15 years. We met in college, and things were great at first. We built a life together, moved into a cozy home in the suburbs, and even started a small business that was doing fairly well. I thought we had it all. But looking back, maybe I should have seen the signs earlier. The first hint of trouble came about a year ago. My wife started staying late at work more often, claiming she had meetings and deadlines to meet. At first, I didn't think much of it. She's always been a hard worker, and I admired that about her. But soon, the late nights turned into weekends, and her stories began to feel rehearsed. One night, after another meeting that kept her out until 11 p.m., I decided to do a little digging. I wasn't proud of it, but I went through her phone. What I found were countless messages between her and a man named Jake. They were intimate. My heart sank. I felt betrayed, angry, but most of all, I felt like a fool. How could I not see this coming? I confronted her the next day. She denied it at first, said they were just friends. But the evidence was overwhelming. Eventually, she broke down and admitted she had been seeing him for 6 months. I wanted to scream, to throw things, to hit something. But I didn't. Instead, I asked her why. She said she felt neglected, that our relationship had become stale, and she found excitement with him. It felt like a knife to the heart. I needed time to think. I couldn't just throw away 15 years of marriage over this, could I? I decided to take a week off work and stay with a friend. During that week, I did a lot of soul-searching. I thought about the good times, the bad times, and everything in between. But no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't get past the betrayal. When I returned home, we tried counseling. I wanted to make it work, but every time I looked at her, all I could see was her with him. The sessions were tense, filled with arguments and accusations. It wasn't working. One night, things took a turn for the worse. I came home early from work, hoping to surprise her with dinner. Instead, I found her in our bedroom, talking to him on the phone. She didn't hear me come in, and I listened to their conversation. They were planning to meet up that weekend. I saw red. I walked into the room, grabbed the phone from her hand, and threw it against the wall. She screamed, more in shock than fear. We had the biggest fight of our lives that night. It got physical. I pushed her against the wall, demanding to know why she was still seeing him. She fought back, hitting me in the chest, screaming that she loved him. That was the last straw. I packed a bag and left. I spent the next few days at a motel, trying to figure out what to do next. I contacted a lawyer and started the divorce proceedings. It was messy. She fought me on everything, the house, the business, even our dog. It was like she wanted to hurt me as much as possible. Then came the blackmail. One day, I received an email from an unknown address. It contained pictures of me in compromising situations from years ago, before we were even married. The email threatened to send them to my family, my friends, and even post them online if I didn't agree to her terms. I was furious. I knew she had taken those pictures, but I never thought she would stoop this low. I decided to call her bluff. I forwarded the email to my lawyer and Dear viewers, more than 90% watch my content without subscribing. If you still have not subscribed, then I ask you to do so. For me, this is the best motivation to continue. We contacted the authorities. It was a long and drawn-out process, but eventually we were able to trace the email back to her. She was arrested for extortion. That was the final nail in the coffin of our marriage. The divorce was finalized 6 months later. I got the house, the business, and the dog. She got some money and a restraining order. It wasn't the ending I had hoped for, but it was over. In the end, I learned a lot about myself and what I'm willing to tolerate. I'm not perfect, and I know I made mistakes too. But I'm moving on. I've started dating again, and while it's not easy, I'm hopeful. I know now what I want in a partner and what I won't stand for. Maybe one day I'll find someone who will appreciate me for who I am and not look for excitement elsewhere. But until then, I'm focusing on myself and my happiness, and that's enough for now. A few months after the divorce, life started to take on a new rhythm. I poured myself into work, expanding the business, and took up hobbies that I had neglected for years. Weekends were filled with hiking, fishing, and reconnecting with old friends. It was therapeutic in a way. Each day felt like a step towards reclaiming my life. One evening I received a call from an unknown number. Usually I'd ignore such calls, but something compelled me to answer. It was Jake, the man who had torn my marriage apart. My heart raced, a mix of anger and curiosity bubbling up inside me. Why was he calling? "Hey, I know you probably don't want to hear from me, but I need to talk to you," he said, his voice hesitant. "What could you possibly have to say to me?" I spat out, struggling to keep my composure. "It's about her. She's been blackmailing me too. I thought we could, I don't know, compare notes or something. Figure out what to do." I was stunned. It hadn't crossed my mind that she might be manipulating him as well. Reluctantly, I agreed to meet him. We chose a neutral spot, a quiet bar on the outskirts of town. Jake was already there when I arrived, nursing a drink and looking more defeated than I had imagined. We sat down, and he started to spill everything. She had been using him, just like she had used me. He showed me texts and emails where she threatened to expose their affair to his wife unless he complied with her demands. As much as I hated to admit it, I felt a twinge of sympathy for him. He was as much a victim in this as I was. We spent hours talking, sharing our stories, and plotting our next steps. It was surreal, forming an alliance with the man who had been my enemy. But we both had a common goal: to put an end to her manipulation. Together, we gathered all the evidence we could find: emails, texts, even recordings of phone calls. We compiled everything and went to the authorities. The process was grueling, but eventually they launched an investigation. It wasn't long before she was arrested again, this time with a much stronger case against her. With her out of the picture, a sense of peace finally settled over me. It was a strange kind of closure, knowing that she couldn't hurt anyone else. Jake and I went our separate ways after that, but there was an unspoken understanding between us. We had both been through hell, but we had come out stronger on the other side. Life continued to improve, the business flourished, and I found myself enjoying the single life more than I had anticipated. I started traveling, exploring places I had always wanted to visit. Each trip felt like a new adventure, a way to rediscover myself. Then, one day, I met someone. It was unexpected, as these things often are. She was a friend of a friend, someone I had seen at various gatherings but never really spoken to. We hit it off instantly. There was a spark, something I hadn't felt in a long time. We started dating, and for the first time in years, I felt truly happy. As our relationship blossomed, I found myself reflecting on the past less and less. It was as if a weight had been lifted from my shoulders. I realized that I had been given a second chance at happiness, and I wasn't going to waste it. We moved in together after a year, and life took on a new kind of normal. It was different, but in a good way. We supported each other, communicated openly, and most importantly, trusted one another. It was everything I had been missing before. Looking back, I can see how far I've come. The pain of the past has faded, replaced by a sense of gratitude for the lessons I've learned. I'm stronger now, more resilient, and I know what I want in life. It wasn't an easy journey, but it was worth it. In the end, I found happiness not in someone else, but in myself. The new relationship was the icing on the cake, a bonus that added to my already fulfilling life. I'm not sure what the future holds, but I'm excited to find out. For now, I'm content, and that's more than I could have asked for. Time passed, and my new life felt increasingly stable. My partner and I decided to buy a house together, a quaint place just outside the city with a garden and plenty of space for the dog to run around. We spent weekends renovating, painting walls, and planting flowers. It felt like we were building something solid, something lasting. But just when I thought everything was finally settling down, an unexpected visitor showed up at our doorstep. It was her, my ex-wife. She looked different, worn out, almost fragile. I felt a mix of emotions seeing her again. Anger, pity, confusion. What could she possibly want now? "I need to talk to you," she said, her voice trembling. I hesitated but decided to hear her out. We sat in the living room, an awkward silence hanging in the air. She started to apologize, tears streaming down her face. She admitted she had hit rock bottom and was trying to make amends. She wanted forgiveness, or at least some form of closure. Part of me wanted to tell her to leave, that I didn't owe her anything. But another part of me, the part that remembered the good times we had shared, felt a pang of sympathy. I listened as she explained how her life had unraveled after our divorce, how she had lost everything and was struggling to find her way back. "I'm not asking for anything," she said finally. "I just wanted you to know that I'm sorry. For everything." It was a lot to process. I didn't forgive her, not entirely. But I felt a sense of relief, as if a chapter of my life was finally coming to a close. We parted ways on civil terms, and I hoped she would find the peace she was looking for. The encounter with my ex-wife brought back a lot of memories, but it also reinforced how far I had come. My new life, my new relationship, everything felt even more precious. I was determined not to let the past overshadow the present. As the years went by, my partner and I continued to grow closer. We faced challenges together, celebrated successes, and supported each other through tough times. It wasn't always perfect, but it was real, and that was enough. One summer, we decided to take a road trip across the country. It was something we had talked about doing for years, and finally, the timing felt right. We packed up the car, grabbed the dog, and set off on an adventure. The open road, the changing landscapes, the freedom. It was everything we had hoped for. We visited national parks, stayed in quirky motels, and met interesting people along the way. Each day was a new experience, a new memory to cherish. The trip brought us even closer, and by the time we returned home, we were more in love than ever. After the trip, I proposed. It felt like the right time, and I couldn't imagine spending my life with anyone else. We planned a small, intimate wedding with our closest friends and family. It was a beautiful day, filled with joy and laughter. As we exchanged vows, I knew that this time it was forever. Married life was an adventure in itself. We continued to travel, explore new hobbies, and support each other's dreams. The business flourished, and we even started a family. It wasn't always easy, but it was worth every moment. Reflecting on my journey, I realized that the pain and betrayal I had experienced had ultimately led me to a place of true happiness. I had learned to value myself, to stand up for what I deserved, and to never settle for less. The past was a part of me, but it didn't define me. Years passed, and life continued to evolve in wonderful ways. Our children grew, the business expanded, and we cherished every moment together. But life has a way of throwing curveballs, and ours came in the form of a significant health scare. I was diagnosed with a serious illness. The news was devastating, and it felt like the world had been pulled out from under me. My partner, now my wife, was my rock through it all. She stood by my side during countless doctor visits, treatments, and sleepless nights. Her strength and love were unwavering, and it gave me the courage to fight. The illness was a reminder of how fragile life can be, and it brought our family even closer. We learned to appreciate the small moments, to celebrate each day, and to never take anything for granted. It was a difficult time, but it also brought a new perspective on what truly mattered. Thankfully, after a long and arduous battle, I went into remission. The relief was indescribable, and we celebrated with a renewed sense of hope and gratitude. The experience had changed us, but in many ways, it had strengthened our bond. With a new lease on life, we decided to give back to the community that had supported us through the tough times. We started a charity aimed at helping families dealing with similar health crises. It was our way of paying it forward, of making a difference in the lives of others. The charity became a passion project, something we worked on together and found immense fulfillment in. It also brought us closer as a family, teaching our children the importance of empathy, compassion, and resilience. Looking back, I can see how every twist and turn, every high and low, had shaped our journey. From the betrayal and heartbreak of my first marriage to the incredible love and support of my second, life had been a roller coaster. But through it all, I had found strength, purpose, and true happiness. As I sit here now, reflecting on the past, I feel a deep sense of contentment. The pain of betrayal, the challenges of rebuilding, the joy of new beginnings, it all led me to where I am today. And for that, I am thankful. Life is unpredictable, filled with both beauty and hardship. But it's the people we love, the connections we make, and the resilience we show that truly define our journey. I am grateful for my family, for the love and support that has carried me through, and for the second chance at happiness that I never take for granted. Life continued with its ups and downs, but I felt grounded in my new reality. One evening, while sorting through some old boxes in the attic, I stumbled upon a photo album from my first marriage. I hadn't looked at these photos in years. As I flipped through the pages, memories came flooding back, some sweet, some painful. The album was filled with images of happier times, vacations, family gatherings, and candid moments of joy. But it also served as a reminder of the deceit and betrayal that had torn everything apart. As I closed the album, I felt a mix of nostalgia and closure. I had moved on, but it was important to remember where I had come from. That night, I shared the experience with my wife. We talked late into the night about our pasts, our fears, and our hopes for the future. It was one of those deep conversations that leave you feeling closer and more connected. We decided then that we wouldn't let the past define us, but rather let it inform how we navigated our relationship. Our life was not without its challenges. We had disagreements like any couple, sometimes over small things, sometimes over bigger issues. One argument in particular stands out. It was about money, a common source of tension in many marriages. Our business was doing well, but we had different ideas about how to manage our finances. The argument escalated quickly. Voices were raised, accusations were thrown, and for a moment, it felt like everything might fall apart. But unlike my first marriage, where such fights would fester and breed resentment, we knew how to communicate. After cooling off, we sat down and talked it out. We compromised and came to a solution that worked for both of us. It wasn't easy, but it reinforced our commitment to each other. As our children grew older, new challenges arose. Parenting is a tough job, and it tested our patience and resilience. There were late-night feedings, temper tantrums, and teenage rebellion. But there were also moments of profound joy and pride. First steps, graduations, and family vacations. Through it all, we supported each other, learning and growing together. One particularly difficult period was when our eldest child got into trouble at school. It was a wake-up call for us as parents. We had to reassess our priorities and make some tough decisions about discipline and guidance. It was a stressful time, but it also brought us closer as a family. We learned to lean on each other and to face challenges head-on, rather than avoiding them. Despite the challenges, there were moments of deep intimacy and connection. We made it a point to keep the romance alive, even amidst the chaos of daily life. Date nights, weekend getaways, and simple acts of kindness kept the spark alive. Our physical connection was an important part of our relationship, and we made sure to nurture it. One night, after a particularly stressful week, we decided to escape for a weekend. We rented a cabin in the mountains, away from the noise and distractions of everyday life. It was a chance to reconnect, to focus on each other without the usual interruptions. We spent the days hiking and the nights curled up by the fire, talking about our dreams and aspirations. That weekend was a turning point. It reminded us of why we fell in love in the first place. We returned home feeling rejuvenated and more in sync than ever. It was a reminder that no matter how busy life gets, it's crucial to make time for each other. Reflecting on my journey, I realized how far I had come from the man who discovered his wife's betrayal all those years ago. The pain and anger that once consumed me had been replaced by love and gratitude. I had built a life that I was proud of, with a partner who stood by me through thick and thin. Life is unpredictable, and we can't always control what happens to us. But we can choose how we respond. I chose to rise above the pain, to rebuild my life, and to find happiness again. And in the end, that's what matters. This is my story, a story of betrayal, heartbreak, resilience, and ultimately, redemption. It's a testament to the human spirit, to our ability to overcome adversity and find joy in the most unexpected places. And as I look forward to the future, I do so with hope and excitement, knowing that whatever comes next, we will face it together.